I call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call. Kester. Here. Aaron's.
Here.
Oksuma present. Milnick.
Here.
Slipsma is excused. Now we need a motion to who's going to run the meeting. I make a motion for Tim Aarons to run the meeting. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 There you go. Want the gavel?
No, probably not. Okay, the first thing is to set and adjust and approve the agenda. So first, I would like to get to the agenda. I would like to add Darrell Nelson, County Commissioner update, as a second item under presentations announcements. Seems like it's echoing.
It is echoing.
And I would also like to remove new business item 1, principles of governance resolution, and item 6, consideration of regular meeting schedule for 26-27. However, I would like to include discussion of regular meeting schedule for board members to talk about maybe some of their ideas about what their preference would be, and then we make that decision in March. So does anybody else have any?
Can we just keep them on there and discuss and then maybe move on? I mean, instead of taking them off?
Well, I removed it so we wouldn't, because the way we're going to do this one now, to discuss it, you got to do a motion and a second. And I'm taking it off because I'd like there not to be a motion and a second. I'd rather we have a discussion as a board before we get to that point.
So basically you're just moving it to a board discussion?
Just to discussion.
Okay.
And comments, yeah.
All right.
I'm not clear here. So number 1 and number 6 are being moved to board discussion.
Are being removed.
Removed or moved?
Removed. And then under board comments and discussion, we're going to discuss regular meeting schedule and Wendy's memo as a discussion item for what board members' thoughts are about what you would like to do going forward. We're not going to take action on it tonight, is my goal. You might understand,
Not taking action on 3 either.
but we may. After, with 3, we may. Well, no, 3 we would. You mean private road?
No. Consideration of the firefighter park manager job description. That needs to go to legal counsel. It can't be any action tonight.
We're approving a job description. Well, we can discuss that at the time, but they should stay on, I think.
So you've made a motion, so now we need a second and then discussion.
Oh, I'm just asking right now, does anybody else want to make any changes or amendments to the agenda?
I want to pull bills for approval from the consent calendar.
Okay. And that'll go to items removed from consent calendar. Jill, anything?
Nothing. Good.
Okay, I'd look for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I have a question on that, though.
Sure.
I don't understand removing the principles of governance resolution from the agenda. There will be no discussion about that?
No, unless you decide you can vote no on amending the agenda and we can leave it on.
Okay. I'd like some discussion on that. I don't understand where that came from and what the purpose is, so
Then you should vote no.
I would
I
vote
did
no.
talk to the MTA today. I can fill you in on that.
Okay, so I would vote no.
Okay.
Okay, we need the motions
time.
before the vote, though.
Yeah, we don't have a motion yet, so. Well,
We're just waiting for a second motion to approve the
We need a
consent.
motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second. And go to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion fails. So I will,
I make a motion to,
Was that 2 and 2?
yes.
thanks, to add Daryl Nelson and the bills for approval, but to keep the stuff on new business.
And
Can you just restate that? I won't.
I make a motion to amend the agenda to keep Daryl Nelson, as we said, and to pull the bills for approval, but to keep the items on the new business.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries. Okay, the next thing we have is Vicki Emerson is here, and we are going to have I'm sorry, we actually have public comment first, don't we?
Excuse me, we have conflict of interest first, Tim.
Yep. Okay, any declared conflict of interest today?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Okay. And we have public comment. So any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Township Board. Public comment shall be made in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Comment shall be directed to the board with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the board shall speak from the lectern and state his or her name and address. People may address the board on matters that are relevant to township government issues. The chair shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 5 minutes, excluding the time needed to answer board members' questions. In order to avoid unscheduled debates, the board generally will not comment or respond to presenters. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement by the board. So who would like to go first?
Starting one time.
Yeah. You can do that? Okay.
Good evening. I'm Roland Osterhaus, and hope you're enjoying the winter and staying healthy. I'll keep staying healthy, so hope you are. I have a couple of pages here I'm going to go through briefly. I know I only have 5 minutes.
where do you think?
Have them to look at later. Some of the things I like to go over, find things better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the first one. We're talking about Lossy Trail, Lossy Road. And the first one is a survey of my property there, which shows Lossy Trail growing diagonally through my property. And part of it passes Mr. Jameson's property, the 3 acres there in the corner. See, that's blocked out. And I purchased this property in the 70s. In the 80s, I started a walnut tree farm. And in the 90s, it was made into a trail. And of course, you've probably heard that there are a lot of stipulations, no motorized vehicles on the trail. And I use motorized vehicles to go in there to mow and to trim the trees and work on the trees and so on. And I've been doing that ever since I've had the property. So that is to show where the property is, and it's adjacent to Skeegamog Point Road, which I have frontage on Skeegamog Point Road. And page number 2, this was written in 2020 by Mr. Pop to your advisory board. And where I have it asterisk, at that time the board felt that it would be a good idea that people who have property adjacent to Lossy Trail would be able to use that trail and access their property. And he sent this copy to your legal firm downstate, and I don't have any copy of anything that was ever sent back. I don't think anything was ever done with it after that. That was their recommendation. Going on to number 3, I contacted an attorney in Traverse City to make certain we understood what the rules are. And he cites Michigan State Supreme Court saying if an access has been used in the last 15 years, it's an access. And so he makes comments about that fact, that it still should be used, and that was his position that he said and cited the ruling. Going to page 4. I had Bob Hall come out and look at the property, and his judgment was as to where the asterisk is. That is very wet, very boggy in all areas except taking the trail. And his recommendation was that it'd probably be very difficult, as he called it, a daunting task to try to be able to get across that wetland area. That was his observation. And then I had an aerial view, which is number 5. And that shows where the black line is going across the wetland area if I were to come in across from Skegamog Point Road, next to Mr. Jacobson's property. I had a firm out of Midland, Michigan, as well as someone from the Cadillac Environmental Division come out and look at it and said, yes, it's definitely wetland. But the Midland company said, okay, we will see what it would cost to put a bridge over the wetland if you can get approval. And therefore you can go to page 6. And the cost would be $500,000, which would not get me to all the areas, because if I had to go back and forth across Lossy Trail, other places on down, I'd have to have another bridge to get over Lossy Trail. So I have for 5 years been dealing with this property for 5 years, and before, ever since I planted the trees, I have been working the trees, using that trail, or using that road. It's surveyed as a road from the county, given over to the township in '92. And I don't recall ever being asked, is it okay if we have it into a trail? And I've talked to other property owners, and no one recalls anybody ever asking if it should be a trail and keep it as a road. My feeling has always been, it's pretty simple to put up a sign saying no motorized vehicles or snowmobiles. Only authorized vehicles can be using this trail. All others are prohibited.
You can have another minute to finish up.
Okay. And so if I cannot access my property and take care of the trees, because they're getting to the point where they're starting to produce walnuts, later on for lumber, it's going to be an incredible, incredible financial loss. And I want to say that I'm not looking for preferential treatment. I feel all property owners should have the right to use that. We're not going to demolish the trail. We're not going to put in condominiums. We're not going to do anything. We want to preserve and keep the land, but we do want to take care of what we have. So, thanks.
Mr. Saps? Any other public comment?
Yes, Harmon Ward. I live on Skegamog Point Road, 7225. My access is not like Rollins. I originally sold the property to Rolland, and he had access to his property for all those years. I was originally on that committee that set aside the Lossy Trail, and I distinctly remember that Bell was the chairman of that committee, and we discussed in length about how access should be restricted. But none of us on that committee recommended that property owners should not be able to allow or should not be able to access their property. So as I see it, and again, as Roland said, we were never notified, even when it was turned over. I've lived there 50 years and maintained the trail. And that was one of the things in the original agenda that we had, and I don't have a copy of that original presentation to the board, but I know that it was never, there was discussion of putting up a gate and that sort of thing, but we just no one really thought that was a good idea. Since originally there was a large bridge that went across that trail, and that's when we had issues with snowmobiles. That no one, back when I first bought the property, hunters would come in there. I'd find carcasses in the trail, everything from beaver to or otter. I'm sorry, otter carcasses, and it was just the property was really misused. Since that time. Now, and I don't really know what happened to that original bridge. It had, I remember green girders running across there, And at one time, you could drive a vehicle. I don't remember vehicles driving across there, but I do remember it was a shortcut for snowmobiles. I don't know where they were going from there, but they would shortcut through there. Since on that original committee, several members of that put in just a 3-foot bridge. And that now has restricted most of the use. But again, I cross-country ski down through there. I just went back there yesterday, and most all the illegal access or whatever is coming in off Cook Road. And snowmobile had made it down to the bridge. Of course, couldn't go across the bridge, although I have seen where they have made it across the bridge. Very dangerous, but I've seen that happen. But they, again, had to try to turn their snowmobile around. Now for the rest of the year, I don't know that I'll be able to, because they tore up the mud, and it's just a mess. So I don't even know that I'll be able to ski back there. I just had to turn around. And I usually try to keep it open. Other people have skied back through there, and I keep the trail open for that. So yeah, I think the big problem as I see it, on Cook Road, all the property owners have access to their property because the stream isn't an issue. At our end of the road, though, or on Skagmite Point, it becomes a real issue because the only way, even though I don't own much of the property there, but if a tree is, I want to get some firewood or something, I would have to drive back on the road to get to it. So, it's a minor inconvenience to me, but it's a major inconvenience to Roland. And even if he could have access there, because of the lay of the land, really the only way is to use that road to access his property. I mean, even if he could get to it, the lay of the land is such that he couldn't really drive on his property without making another road through there. And so I can see, to me, an easy solution would be to move the signs down where we could have a turnaround, which is directly behind my property. And then the signs there. From there on, it's muddy. You really can't. Jeeps will come down through there and they get stuck and you have to be hauled out. That usually happens once or twice a year, kids from the road. Really, the only people that use the road now, because it's all marked or, it's private property, is just a few people on our road. So there's very little use now. During COVID, there was a fair amount of use, but there's very little use now, and it really very few problems. The snowmobile was just kind of a unique thing. It just came up 2 days ago, but for the most part, snowmobiles aren't making it through there. Must be someone that just didn't realize he couldn't just shoot down through there and make it over to Skagmite Point. So, I just think that in closing that we should have access to our property, and as simple as that. And I think moving the sign down would be better for everybody. Parking on Skagmite Point Road is dangerous. They have to park right in front of Mike's place, open their doors, get in and out. Oftentimes I'll see very few people that do that, but they're opening their doors right into the roadway. So as far as being, liability, it seems like that's a real liability there. If they could drive on down, they would be happy.
Sir, could I have the spelling of your name, sir?
Harlan Ward, 725 Skagmite Point Road.
Spelling Harmond.
H-A-R-M-O-N.
Herman.
Harmon, H-A-R-M-O-N.
Ward.
Public comment?
W-A-R-D.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is.
Mike?
Yep.
And I did read this, and it's thinking over the weekend.
Mike Jacobson, Skagmite Point Road. The paper I have handed you, there's two things there. There's three pages out of the Whitewater Township Battle Creek Natural Area Management Plan. I put the cover page on there so you knew where I got the information from. On the second page, I have some stuff marked in yellow marker, and it says protection of neighbors. The township intends to be a good neighbor to adjacent property owners. That would be us. Not just the people down on the lake, but there would be us property owners that own property on the trail. The township does not own the trail. The township owns a very small piece of the trail. I own the trail, the land where it goes on my property. Roland owns the property where the trail goes on his property. Bud Ward owns the property on that the trail goes on his property, and so forth. On the other side, it's the same. The township has an easement. They do not own the property. Only a very small piece way across the bridge on the Cook Road side. Okay, that's a whole paragraph, but there were three things I wanted to mention. That was the first one. Secondly, it talks about their agreement with the natural resource, Michigan Natural Resources, and they're pointing out that they have to let people access the land, and they have to let people hunt or fish the land. Well, many of us that own property there are getting elderly, and when I kill a deer down there, dragging a full-size deer out at 63 years old after 2 heart attacks isn't the greatest thing to do. I should be able to use a vehicle to go get it, providing I have permission from the people's land who I'm crossing. And thirdly, the very last sentence I think is very important. Likewise, the township shall consider impact to neighboring properties as a criteria in making management decisions. Roland's issue is one of those issues. He has an issue, and the township is holding him up. Nobody. He's used it since the 70s. I can verify that. Second thing I have yellowed out on that page is the very next line, and it says 6 specific neighborhood interfaces have been currently identified. And then on the last page, it is number 6, bullet point number 6, after that heading. And the very first sentence in that paragraph says, allow access for adjoining property owners. That's in your management plan. Okay. Secondly, our master plan on page 78. The very top of the page, the very first thing on the page, it says, respect the rights of the township residents and property owners. Don't we get respect? We own the property. We let the public use it, but we're not allowed to use it for our own needs. I think we should be respected too. In that packet that I gave you, the very last page is a letter from a management personnel at the County Road Commission back in 1990. And I know that it is not addressed to the township. It is addressed to a person who owned property back there now. He's long since deceased, and the property is owned by somebody else. But that document ended up in this office back in the early 1990s. I got that document from this office. So the board has known since the early 1990s about the fact that like Roland said about this Supreme Court case. Okay, if we've been using the road to access our property, you can't stop us. And he bought the property before it was ever turned over to the township. And now the township wants to tell him he can't use it? If he wants to build a house back there, more power to him. He's got to cross my property to do it, but that's an issue between me and him. That's not an issue between him and the township. Township has no right to tell him he can't do that. Michigan Supreme Court, Roland talked about that. I know when you guys get around to talking about this, you're going to say, well, we really need to ask the lawyer about that. Well, I'm telling you, I think that's a waste of money. Your own documents, you're all very adept at a computer. You can look up the Supreme Court case, read the verdict for yourself, or their findings for yourself, and save the township our money, my tax money, all these people's tax money. You don't need to do that.
Okay, Mike, can you
Secondly,
summarize, please?
lastly, I was at the last Parks and Recreation meeting, and I asked them if they would write a letter stating that they think the property owners should be allowed to use it. And they told me they had already sent a memo to the board and nothing happened about it. And if you don't believe me about that, just look at the tape from the last meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment?
Hi, Melissa Melton, 5044 Vinton Road. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I guess I feel like I should because there's a lot of public who's interested in this. To give this board a highlight and to give members of the community who are impacted by this, the Parks and Rec Committee has gone through a long process. We have a completely engineered, shovel-ready project already done. The township paid for the engineering. We had ARPA funding for it. The prior board had balked us on 3 different meetings, wouldn't allow us to be in the agenda, essentially pushing us to a time limit that we were not able to use those ARPA funds. Thankfully, you guys did make the decision so that our community used it for the fire truck. Unfortunately, the Lossy Road development never happened, so we now have a trail that is non-walkable on the west end, on the Cook End Road. It's completely sloppy and the bridge needs to be upgraded. That was what this project was supposed to do. The other part of this project was really supposed to help the integrity of the property owners being able to access their property as needed, but putting structures up to not allow outside vehicles to gain access to the low, swampy part of the trail because they were ripping it up. So in barriers we set areas where barriers should be placed, not at the end of the road necessarily, but just prior to where it gets to the wetland portion. So, and Mike is right, we did write a memo to the board. I don't remember the exact date, but we basically gave the board like 3 options essentially of how they could mediate this getting in and out of the Lossy Trail, and also within mind of the property owners, respect and what they should be able to do. And the board basically decided not to take any action on it. So it just died, like there's no action. So that's up to you as far as this board. If you guys want to pick up that ball, we have all the documentation, we have all the engineering, we have all of the project documents. We did a lot of due diligence to make sure that this was a good, successful project. And unfortunately, we did not have board support. And worse than that, we had a lot of things that happened that took away our financing that we worked very hard to get. So that's all I have to say about that. Depending on what you guys decide tonight, I guess we'll see if the Parks and Rec Committee is able to do any further good for the community going forward. So,
Thank you, Melissa. Any other public comment?
Kim Mangus, Brown Bear Lane. I was watching the meeting from home, and we don't get to do public comment anymore, so I drove down here. I'm close. I wanted to give you just a little bit of additional information. As all of you know, I used to be the chair of the PC, and I wanted to encourage you to follow up, like many people have just asked you to, on this issue. I came across, and I can't put my hands on it immediately. I just want to make you aware of something that I found that I presented to other previous board members. I came across a board vote that was previously, I believe when Carol Hawken was still on the board, that I took from reading the notice to be a board vote to turn over the easement to the local property owners, whoever's property it was running through. It appeared to me when I was doing that research, I was researching another project and just happened to come across it. It looked as though the board had voted to turn over the easement to the adjacent property owners. So as you go forward, if you start looking at this, that's really something you might want to dig up. I don't know if I could find it again. I was literally doing a through the original document search. But there may already be something on the books where that was turned over to the adjacent property owners. I don't know if they just didn't follow through with it, someone forgot it happened, or if I was misinterpreting the notice that was in the documents. But typically the things that are recorded in the book are the things that actually happened. So I just wanted to make you aware that there may be some additional information that I haven't heard anybody this evening bring up, that this may have already had action taken on it, that as it's not unusual for this township to sometimes make decisions and not actually execute them, make zoning ordinance changes that never make it in the zoning ordinance, things like that. Historically, it does happen. I know everybody's trying to do better going forward, but I wanted to make you aware that there might be additional documents and paperwork out there that no one appears to be aware of, and the previous board chose not to follow up on when I brought it to their attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
No, thank you. On the spot. Yep.
Heidi Volmuth, Winning Lane, Williamsburg, Michigan. First, private citizen. First of all, I'd like to make a comment. I actually have that document. I know all about it, read it well, read millions of minutes. This will have to be my second public comment, as I wasn't going to comment on that this evening. So you'll have to wait. Just so everybody understands how the process works in township government, I want you to notice the flow chart that I attached with the job duties and definitions, pages 1 through 7. Complaints have been filed with Michigan State Police by taxpayers regarding payments made but received county notification of unpaid taxes. The investigation is ongoing. Pages 8 through 10 revise the treasurer's duties. The treasurer has not been present to accept taxes in person during hours acceptable for the public she works for. See pages 11 through 12. Whitewater Township has paid thousands of dollars for training seminars and audits for the treasurer to do her job, and she still has not been able to completely do her job. Yet, she states in her campaign literature that she's got 30 years of experience. Pages 13 through 15. I have to quote this. What you're not seeing is, here's her campaign promises. Her campaign promises state, with over 30 years of experience in financial management and accounting skills, she will provide excellent financial oversight, planning, and budgeting as a township treasurer. Jill is running for the position of treasurer because the fiscal responsibility of her community is important to her. Okie dokie. Let me continue. The treasurer has failed to sign the Code of Ethics policy passed by her team board members, pages 16 through 19. The treasurer definitely has a conflict of interest when it comes to short-term rentals. Township treasurer operates 2 short-term rentals, one in Whitewater and one in Acme Township, both in the zip code 49690. The treasurer pleaded guilty to violation of a short-term rental in Acme Township and paid the fine in the 86th District Court. Reference pages 22 through 26. The treasurer does not provide receipts to the taxpayers or the clerk. See page 27. The treasurer's office has demonstrated poor internal controls. Pages 28 through 30. The treasurer has failed to reconcile accounts, which is her sole responsibility. See the ongoing audit, now available for public view. I'm requesting that no more transfers occur to fix or correct issues or errors in the treasurer's office until a complete audit is finished, or possibly a forensic audit is done to make sure all and any monies collected through the treasurer's office are properly accounted for and deposited in the bank, logged properly into the BSNA accounting systems. See advised 10 top township policies, pages 28 through 33. Please insert these documents into the minutes verbatim and add to the book of correspondence. Thank you for your time. And since I have more time, I suggested a shared trail because I read so many minutes that, in my opinion, the property owners did have rights to that trail. After examining the trail on several occasions, I noticed more tire tracks than footprints. Another reason for a shared trail. Signs help shared trails. Michigan is a trail system state. Horses share trails with all kinds of people. Bicyclists share trails with all kinds of people. As long as the people keep their hands off the signs and leave them in the places they're supposed to be, there usually aren't any issues. But sometimes we have to police ourselves in the woods. I have a second public comment. I'll get more to that later. Do you need anything from me?
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, everyone. So now we will move to presentations and announcements. And first up is the Elk Rapids Lions Club check presentation. And Vicki Emerson is our lead ranger at Whitewater Township Park. And she has agreed to come up and introduce our guest. And they would like a photo opportunity for their purposes. So if we could just... And then for the other board members, so she'll come up when Vicki introduces the grant award and what its intended purpose. And then I asked them just to come down here, and Jill and Randy, if we can kind of just come and be behind.
It's taking the picture.
And I think the chief is going to take the picture.
It's right.
Come on up here, Shirley.
So if you can just explain, you coordinated this gift to the township. So can you explain what it's going to be used for and how much it is? And
I can. I do want to give credit to Denise Peltonen, who told me about this opportunity before I saw it.
closer to the microphone.
Sorry. And so I want to give recognition to Denise Peltonen, who told me about this opportunity. She saw it in the Elk Rapids News before I did, so I thought, I got to take action. So I wrote a simple grant application, and this is Shirley Hill, president of the Lions Club. She has spent many, many years doing so much volunteer work besides the Lions Club. So I had talked with her about how our chairs at the park, they're plastic, brittle, and they're cracking and breaking and a safety hazard. So we are now going to get 6 new Adirondack chairs and a couple of cornhole games to put where the volleyball net should be. And so Shirley has been very helpful in us getting this grant, and I am forever grateful to Shirley and the Lions Club.
And so are we. So if you want to come up, and we'll do a picture.
Come up where?
Right up here.
Oh my goodness.
Bye. Yeah, let's have you turn that way and I'll place it. Okay.
I have it on it. I turn so that.
Well, I didn't want to.
I have it.
Never mentioned. It's a good slide to get you. There you go. Hi, together. Look at it.
Good thing they're short.
Here's that. Sorry.
All right, thank you.
Let me shake your hand. No, it's
Thank you to the Lions Club.
if anything.
And thank you.
You been here very nice.
Shirley.
It will.
Yes. Is that a $2,500 grant?
We'll just,
Yep.
Yes, she did, but I
The kid.
might want to mention that.
Not sure. We said, okay.
So I failed to say it's a $2,500 grant.
thank you. Okay, next we have Mr. Darrell Nelson, County Commissioner, for an update. I think also our representative on the Airport Commission.
Yes.
Okay.
So, good evening. Got to reintroduce myself. I'm sorry it's been a while since I've been here. It's been a year. Thursdays are kind of a tough day for me, but also my mother was in advancing dementia, and so over the course of 2025, we were doing a lot of taking care of her. And I hope you guys understand that maybe I was there with her when I couldn't be with you guys. So, but anyway, I'm back. So sorry, I'm here. I don't have a lot to report, but we, at the county, you'll hear a lot of talk about new buildings and maybe tearing down the Boardman Center and all that stuff. This is a long-term plan that's developing. There's nothing. We've got the Project Alpha we're doing up at Lafreniere. We're putting in a new 911 center and records building. That's kind of phase one. We went through, as you remember, 3 years ago, we did an assessment of all the properties we had, everything, and kind of, you know how you can collect properties, you get tax roll stuff. We had stuff all over. So we're trying to do an inventory, trying to be more efficient, trying to get down to 2 campuses. And so we're working on that. And the building, that Boardman building, is more than 50 years old, and it's having some issues. And one of the assessments we're doing is, do you repair the building? Do you reutilize that building? Do you tear that building down? So that's like the knee bone connected to the hip bone, and there's a lot to think about. Like, what do you keep at that campus? How do you do that? And you're working with the city, they're 25% over in the building. So you'll see a lot of talk about that. I want to assure you guys, nothing's going to happen like really quick. We're also setting aside money and looking financial forecasting. How do you do that type of projects? Because as we all know, building costs are certainly not going down. So that's a lot of money, a lot of processing, a lot of planning and all that. So you'll see that ongoing. We're not going to drive by the Boardman building next week and see a wrecking ball or anything like that. We don't know what's going to happen. So all that's ongoing.
One question, is the sheriff and the city police going to still stay in the same building?
That's a good question.
Okay.
And maybe. One of the things that is important is having the courts and the jails together. Like there's a lot of, there's telehealth, there's now that they've got the video arraignments and things like that, but you still need the jail near the courts and all that. So there's a process to moving the county seat. It's nice having the city and the county right together. So there's some benefit to that. Actually right now we're doing a minor remodel down on the county side of that main floor because we were running extension cords, and the electrical that was set up 50 years ago was just not meeting the needs with what we need now for computers and everything. But that's kind of a minor remodel to kind of keep us. But we're not intending on moving that portion of it, but it could be that administration moves, maybe not. But we've got a large chunk of property right there, and we've got to look at how to portion that, how to set that up. Chances are pretty good that law enforcement will stay there because the courts will probably stay there. That's a historic building, historic courthouse. If you had a magic wand and you were doing it again, you might put all that up on Lafreniere. That's kind of the center of the county. But I don't envision that happening, but never say never. But I don't even want to indicate like that's really being discussed because it really isn't. We just kind of want to keep them together. So there's even talk about, we have committed to building a new jail. We haven't committed to when or what it looks like or how we do it. My thing has always been, I don't want to build a building and then you guys try to fit in it. I'd rather you show me the program. 50 years ago, incarceration was a whole lot different than it is now. I'm on the jail diversion program, one of the committees I serve on. A lot of the people that used to be incarcerated in our jail are no longer being incarcerated in the jail. They're on a tether. They're able to be home. They're able to be with their family. They're able to go to work. And we know if they're violating their parole by drugs or alcohol. We know if they're going outside of certain areas they're not supposed to go. It really makes a lot more sense to have somebody be able to be with their family, be with their kids, and be at their job. So the technologies are there for that. So a lot of those people that used to be in the jail are no longer there. That means the people that are in the jail need more mental health care, are more serious cases, and there's a lot of medical needs. There's, with the different the drugs that people are, prescription drugs that people are taking, all that. So, and then you've got new laws regarding minors and the sight and sound separation. And there are minors that need to be incarcerated at times too. When I say minors, I'm not talking about young kids, but people that are under 18. So there's certain rules about that. And so we have to account for that. So I keep saying, show me the program, show me what a jail looks like. And we've got a good example downstate that we've looked at a couple times. And then we can build a building around that. And then you kind of go from that way. You don't just build a jail and then figure out how to make it work. And it's hard to, this is probably a building that's going to last 50 or 75 years. And with a jail, what is that going to look like? Right. 50 or 75 years. So you have to have some modulars. And if you look at hospitals, they're now doing in pods, and jails are kind of doing the same thing. There used to be hospitals were long hallways with nursing stations. Now they're usually round, and the nursing station's in the center, and they can look 360. So a lot of different changes.
Can you give us a little brief update on the status of the new airport terminal?
I can. So the new terminal, it was the old terminal on the other side of the airport. The new terminal is 20 years old. So it's actually 21 years old now. And the FAA has a lot to do with allowing you to build airports, and they're going to pay for about half of this airport. And the original airport was built for 250 to 300,000 passengers. And we're going to hit 1 million this coming year unless things drastically change. 960, something like that in 2025. So you could justify 2 more pods, and I'll explain what I mean that in a minute. We're going to do one. One of the things FAA, they don't let you build for future growth. You have to build for existing growth that you have like 3-year records of doing, and that makes a lot of sense. You're using federal money. You can't build on spec. That could cause lots of problems. So if you think about the airport, you walk in the airport, and you go through security, and there's some restrooms on the right-hand side there. That's kind of going to be a concourse down to another pod, another gate section. It'll be almost twice the size of the one that's there right now. And there's room, actually, we're not tearing down anything, not cutting down any trees. There's room for 3 more of those just going straight out. We're going to put in 1. So we're going to put in 4 or 5 more gates in that new one, which doubles the size or the number of gates, but it's a much bigger terminal, the concourse. So what's going to happen is you'll have the bigger planes, the Delta, American, United, will probably be out of that one. And the smaller ones, Allegiant, Sun Country, Avelo when they come back, which they will, and some other possible smaller airlines with somewhat smaller planes will go to the other terminal. We're in such dire straits on getting all the gate time that we are actually putting up some temporary, I'm calling them Quonset huts. They're not, they're square-looking buildings with power, but we're going to put in 2 to 4 gates out on the tarmac so that planes can offload there, because the planes are getting bigger now. They used to be, we remember the day they were 35, 75 people. They're now 175 to 200 people. So it takes a certain amount of time to unload the people and the luggage. So my daughter lives in Denver. There are almost all year now, there are direct flights. A lot of times she said, Dad, I'm like 45 minutes on the ground. I land in Traverse City and before I can get up and get to a gate. So that's the problem we're having, especially in the summer. And you can only unload a plane so fast. So it's one of the reasons for the need for the new one. And the funding for that is the airport there are no local tax dollars that go toward the airport. So it's all self-funding, part of it through Costco. So the airport is almost, think of like a mall. You've got vendors in there. You've got the airlines paying for space. You've got the car rental places. You got a restaurant. You got a gift shop. There's advertisers. Even on the when you get your luggage, there's little stickers that show for the casino. So all of that defrays the cost, and we don't take local money. We did ask the county. The county has a better bond rating than the federal government. If you think about that for a second. So we could save about $16 million by using the full faith and credit bond rating of Grand Traverse County as opposed to going on the airport on itself. Airport has no debt. They were going for bonding when they built the new airport in 2001 or in 2000. We all remember what happened in 2001. Money was falling out of the sky. Traverse City Airport was the first airport completed with the new regulations after 9/11. When they, the bomb proof and the windows and the setup, they were the very first airport. And all that money just came flying in from the federal government. They can print money, they can do that. So the airport doesn't have debt and doesn't have a history of debt. So the bond, it would cost $16 more to use a bond rating through the airport. So the county has agreed to do that, and that will provide $16 million more toward this project that you don't have to spend on just plain interest. Now there's bond reserves, there's a year and a half, 1.25% in abeyance. So there's all sorts of protections built in. And if anyone knows about our finance director, who is very, very conservative, even he said, yep, this is a good thing. So I don't want anyone to think that we're like risking the money. And we've got all these projects coming up where we might be bonding some more. It doesn't affect that either. We're way, way, way under our headspace because of really good, tight financial management. We're not anywhere near where we're going to start running into trouble where we're going to bond or not be able to borrow money. Not that we're looking to borrow a lot of money. That's not the point, but we've got some big expenses coming up.
Thank you for that.
So, other than that, one other thing I want to talk about is we have been doing a lot of exploration and looking at AI and what AI can provide for us. We use 3 different AI modules right now. So like if we have a meeting, you've got the video going, you can actually type in, motion for whatever, type a topic, and it'll take you right to that video so you can look at exactly how it was said. There's also AI, you can look through the notes. And we're also looking at AI not only for efficiencies, but for safety. We had a couple years ago, we had an attack. You see Munson just had an attack. Haggerty had an attack, cyber attack. We're finding that there's some modules out there that use AI to help react very quickly to different attacks and all that. We're also, I didn't even realize they're doing this. They're leaving thumb drives in bathrooms and in the parking lot. They're doing a lot to load test our employees so that, if you pick up a thumb drive, and I might have been the guy that would do that, you pick up a thumb drive and you put it in a county device, you're popped. Hey, Daryl, you're in remedial training. You picked up a thumb drive and stuck it in a computer. So we're doing a lot of that kind of stuff because, as we all know, that's everywhere.
Right.
I found that interesting that we're using AI to help with that type of thing, amongst others. Any questions for me?
I just have one. So back to the airport for a moment. There's no runway extensions or additional runways, right?
There's no addition to the thank you for that. It's a good question. I should have covered that. No extension of the footprint of the runway, no extension to the runways, no need for any of that. There is no need. We're looking forward 75 years. They see no need to do any of that. Not the runways. The runways that we have right now, you can fly anywhere in the world. We're not an international airport, but planes can fly anywhere in the world. All the infrastructure and space that we need is all in place. And there's actually room to deal with Costco. If we were to keep building and keep building and keep building, the Costco would go, and you'd keep building that way. I shouldn't say that because that's not a plan, but there's plenty of room for build out of an airport on site. And if you saw, there's a hotel going across. If you pull into the airport, you see the terminal on the right. To the left there's going to be a hotel going in. And eventually, like a walkway going over to a future terminal.
The walkway over the road?
Over the road, yeah. So you can go from the hotel right over into the terminal, which isn't there yet. That'd be in future expansions. But
Great.
so, and we've increased the parking. We had to put in a new temporary parking lot. It's a budget lot. It's off to the right as you're coming in. It's going to be opening up this summer. It's 350 sites, maybe 400. And there'll be a shuttle bus going back and forth. Last winter, February, we ran out of spots. That never happens. That's like March, April. We ran out in February of spots. I think everyone wanted to get out of so get out of town. So it's a good problem to have. There's growing at the airport. So over 20% in growth 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row.
Growing pains. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Come back and see us again.
I will.
Okay.
I'll be back. Sorry. I know you guys missed me something terrible.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have an update from Wendy about the payroll audit.
So we talked about this last meeting as well. The CPA Manor Custodian did a payroll audit. They did not find any discrepancies in like pay rates or wages. They did not find any discrepancies in pension payments or anything like that. They just clarified that I should probably add additional documentation to be clearly attached within BSNAs to strengthen any further audits. So I took that information and I'm using that. What they did find was in BSNA that the IRS tax payments didn't reconcile with each other. That's because I didn't have those done correctly at the time yet. I didn't finish those for the year when they were looking at those. And so since then I have done that. I'm also working with BSNA to make sure everything's pulling through correctly and is clearly documented in BSNA. I have, since last meeting, also done all the W-2 forms and completed and electronically filed them internally myself and used AccuCheck to do that as well. The 1099s I printed and mailed, and then I couldn't get the IRS's system to recognize me as a person, so I had to kind of last minute ask Deb at Gaybridge and Company to just e-file those for me, and she did that promptly, so that worked really well as well. So right now we are really doing well. All set.
Okay, anybody have any questions? I have just a couple. One, were the tax payments to the IRS in the state, where they, at the last meeting when we talked about it, there was like this corrective action plan that you said that you would give the board about some of the findings that the CPAs had, and I haven't seen anything. And we asked for a reconciliation of the payments for the payroll taxes, and I haven't seen anything on that. And I believe also during that discussion, I had asked, since the treasurer has to be part of approving payments as well, that she'd be allowed to review the spreadsheet with the tax documents. And I don't know if that's happened.
No. I was kind of busy with the W-2s and 1099s, but I can definitely get with Joe with that.
That's what I think we need to do. I think it's a two-part process. You got a clerk that's issuing checks, and you got a treasurer that's supposed to be verifying payments. And I know that with the electronic age, things are so automated that it doesn't really give the treasurer an opportunity to even review before it has to be paid. Like our direct deposits for your payroll, that's just part of the payroll process, and it gets put into your bank account, and the review has to happen after the fact. And I think this is just another one of those things that needs to be reviewed and needs to be checked. I don't think by the entire board, but I think it needs to be checked by the treasurer to verify, to have two people in the township verify.
Since Manor Custodian is working on the reconciliation right now, that would be part of what she would see too in the reconciliation.
Yeah, but I'm talking about going forward though. I mean, we're not going to keep using the CPA. They're just getting us over a hump here, but.
And going forward, I'm doing it by payroll. So it won't, it'll be easier to go forward.
So that's all I had, and I have gone in and ran all the 4 reports that I'm allowed to run for the information that I'm looking for, and I think it's just a case where I'm going to have to talk to BSNA to, some of the reports sort of don't make sense to me a little bit. So that's just on me to figure that part out. But thank you.
So I just had a question about the things that came out in the audit that were discrepancies and things that needed to be fixed. When are we going to see proof that they have been done? Are we just waiting? And
Discrepancies are you talking about in the audit?
the payroll discrepancies, the things with the
payroll discrepancy was
taxes.
There was nothing in the audit that was a payroll discrepancy. So he was saying in the payroll audit that there is no clear set time for people to be paying pensions in townships. But I am saying, in going forward, I'm going to be doing it every payroll, so that it won't be an issue for the next audit. He also was saying that I was only doing it quarterly payments for the IRS for the federal payments, and that was never taught to me as a clerk any differently. But from going forward, I'm going to be doing that as every payroll as well.
And will those be included in the payroll packet then for me to audit, or the bill packet? At what point is that going to start coming to me?
That would be a good time to do that, yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice to see it in the payroll packet. Okay, so I thought at the last meeting we discussed that we wanted to see some documentation that some of those things had been actually taken care of. When and how are we going to see that documentation?
Well, you can see it in BSNA right now for yourself. So, I mean, I can put together anything that you would like for you to see, but it's already in BSNA. So I can run a report and show you that.
Okay. Yeah, I think what we're looking for on the tax payments is a spreadsheet, a worksheet of all the withholdings and all the payments that have been made, whether quarterly or now biweekly, and to be able to take those payments and tie them into the actual reports that are filed with the governments.
Correct.
Okay. So that's what I would like to see happen.
And I don't ever see any of the tax, what is due, what is paid. So, I mean, that is something that should be included in the payroll packets. And I thought that we were going to have that documentation at this meeting and then going forward have a plan of how that's going to be included going forward. But
Question, so that's a form that or some module that you have within BSNA to print that out? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah, it's all in the BSNA modules. There's a payroll module. There's a accounts payable.
So you can run a report from a certain period of time and show any changes that were made?
part of the problem, though, is that we don't have access to everything that Wendy has access to. Like, I cannot look at the report. There's a report that is supposed to be printed at the time that she's doing the payroll that allows somebody to approve it after the fact. Once the payroll button has been pushed to send payroll, you can't access it anymore. I don't have access to any of that. I have access to the human resource module, not the payroll section, and I can only print certain reports. So I don't have access. I've been saying this for months and months and months. I don't have access to everything that I need.
You have all the access that you need. I think it's more into training and figuring out how to do the report.
I've been on the phone with BSNA so many times, and they constantly tell me, get with your admin, which I do, and it just goes.
I think this is more discussion for outside the meeting.
Yeah, I think let's just move on now and get an update on the bank account reconciliation. What's the status?
So Angie is working on it. She said that they are reconciled through June. They did send Wendy a bunch of corrections that needed to be made. It looks like those got done. Angie confirmed it. So they are still going forward. They're just finding a lot of things that need to be fixed from the conversion and just from the fund balance records. So
those were actually cash receipts that needed to be fixed.
And there were a lot of things that outstanding checks and different things that weren't accounted for that needed to be cleaned up. So they're working on it. They're going pretty fast, and she understands we're under a deadline for the end of March. It didn't sound 100% positive they could meet that, but they're working as fast as they can. So
Well, right through June, so that's good.
yeah, and so it'll be really nice to have a clean slate to start from and know everything is done correctly.
So there was about 8 journal entries that she sent me. Some of them were just minor things. They were like corrections to like former receipts, that kind of thing, or where stuff had been put backwards. I had talked to her too about all the outstanding checks and what she meant by that, and she said that was in fund balance and how it did convert over. I told her that in fund balance, like, you can make checks reconciled, and so that maybe was part of why it was into BSNA. She said it was the weirdest thing though, so she's seen it before in other fund balance conversions, so it wasn't anything new to her.
Okay.
So it does seem like they're clipping along pretty well, and good. It's hopeful.
Okay, next on the agenda is consent calendar. We're removing bills to items removed from consent. Is there anything else anyone would like removed? It's basically minutes and correspondence. We had correspondence from Van Solkema regarding Banks Road. We had ZBA and from DeLong regarding private road ordinance. Is there any other correspondence?
No.
Okay. So I'd look for a motion to approve the amended consent calendar, unless someone would like to remove either the minutes for discussion or edits or.
I have a couple edits on the minutes.
Which ones? Both?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So all that is left on the consent calendar is correspondence. It's more of an announcement. But let's just, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
So move.
And is there a second? You're basically approving the correspondence. That's all that's left. But we're still, it's under consent.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go to the first item removed from the consent calendar, and that is approval of bills.
Just need to clarify.
And
you skip over the
minutes?
You're going to do the minutes first or the bills?
Oh, the bills got removed first. I'm going to them first, and then we'll do the minutes. So Wendy pulled this.
So the charter amount was wrong. It needs to include another $350. So that was supposed to be $530. We're adding K Held's bill as well instead of waiting. And then Eagle, we need a campground license renewal, so that really needs to be done in a timely manner as well.
Is this a spreadsheet? Are you just converting a BSNA report into this? Or are you...
Two reports from Excel and putting them together.
Is there any way we could get the account numbers on?
Okay, before we discuss it further, I do want to, because this is going to be a motion item, well, just going forward, let me just interrupt and start here. This is what Linda asked us to do this meeting. She wants us to take the Robert's Rules of Order and apply it in the strictest manner to streamline meetings and avoid unnecessary debate and allow people to speak without being interrupted. So that has its pros and cons, as we're going to find out. But anyway, what I'm going to be looking for is there's a sponsor on the agenda for who put it on the agenda. They will have, before we enter into any discussion, there's a motion, and the sponsor makes the motion, then they get to speak first. There's a second, and after it's introduced by the sponsor of the agenda item, then we'll go around, everybody gets an opportunity to speak uninterrupted, up to 10 minutes. And then if there's any follow-up or any other questions, there's a second opportunity for the board to go around and make comments, and then it goes to a vote. And so, we're gonna, the chair goes last, and then the motion is going to be to rescind or withdraw the motion that was made if more information comes out. Just because you are making a second does not mean that you necessarily agree with the motion. You just want to open it up for debate and discussion. And then through understanding, maybe even the person that made the motion wouldn't even support their own motion. So I was saying that's the process that Linda would like us to follow, and I'd like to respect that. So with this discussing bills, I already let it go too far. Could I have a motion to approve the bills as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second. And then Jill, did you have any other discussion?
No, I was just wondering if we could add a column on here that includes account codes so that we could check that for accuracy too before we approve them.
And Wendy, do you have a response to that request?
I don't believe that's in my policy, what I need to put on the report. I'm adding already a list of where it's coming from. And so it's actually the clerk's job to put where it's needed to be, in what fund, in what department and account. So it can always be corrected at a later time too. But it does have breakdown of like where it's going, to township board, supervisor, elections, assessor, etc. I think to put the actual numbers on all that would be a little much.
Where does it show where it's going?
The second page has always had
down.
Township board, supervisor, elections, is how much in each thing totals. You can kind of like report back and go, oh, look, yeah, janitorial, township board.
Okay, so I'll take a turn. And I agree, I would like to see, yes, I can see there's a summary of where all the money went to what department, but I'm not going to know as a trustee looking at this when, I'm trying to do my due diligence. Did something accidentally go into the wrong account number? I'm not going to know that if I don't see the account number. I know it's your responsibility to enter the payables and code them to where you believe they should go, but it doesn't open up any debate or discussion without us going in individually and literally in the computer and seeing what account number it got charged to.
And I'd like to report that the GL is the clerk's responsibility, and I take full responsibility that things are going in the correct way, and you should honestly trust me that this report is correct and that you're approving it.
Do you have anything to say?
I'd like to see the account number.
We all three want to see the account number on the report. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bills as
I'll take that into consideration.
all in favor.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have, I guess, start with a motion, Randy, on whichever minutes you want to review first. And I think it'd probably be proper, since you have some maybe changes, to start with amended minutes.
So how do I do that? I would make a motion to approve the January 20th meeting minutes with one correction,
As amended.
as amended, as,
You're going to tell us after we get a second.
okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
And what,
My amendment is a minor one on page 3, second paragraph. Additional comments included property acquisition and development with the Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy. I would say strike and development. The point was principally about property acquisition and partnership with them, not development necessarily.
does anybody have any concerns with that amendment?
No.
Second, page 3, page 3, paragraph 2, fourth line. Comments included property acquisition and development. I would strike and development.
Help take out and development.
Yes.
Okay, any other changes to those sets of minutes?
No.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the January 20 minutes as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jill voting.
I'm sorry. Yes, I, Teresa.
And all opposed? Motion carries. So Randy, you're up.
I'll make another motion to approve the minutes from January 22nd with 2 additions, corrections.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Okay,
So the first edit is at the top of page 4, second sentence. So she reiterates the deadline for submission is 2-126, and PRAC would have the opportunity, it should be township, PRAC is not the applicant for a grant, so I would change PRAC to township. That's change number 1. The other change is at the bottom of page 5, zoning board of appeals appointment. The second sentence, this is at the very bottom, the supervisor has made the recommendation of Mr. Scott Trumbull. That should say the planning commission recommended Mr. Scott Trumbull to serve on the ZBA. Is that clear, Clee?
No.
yeah,
Supervisor has to.
well, my understanding is that the planning commission makes the recommendation, the supervisor makes the appointment, and it has to be affirmed by the board.
Right, and that's what's there under board action. In the paragraph before that, it said the supervisor has made the recommendation. That's not true.
Yeah, she made the appointment.
She made the appointment. The planning commission made
It's
the
not the
recommendation.
actual motion, it's the right before it.
Right, right. That's the distinction.
Okay, anybody else have any edits? Wendy, are you okay with those changes? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the January 22 minutes as amended. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're on to new or unfinished business. Any park and rec items? I have from Tom, I requested a I guess more for the public, the board knows that we opened up reservations for camping February 1st. It was felt that April 1 was too late for many people making their plans for the summer. And I asked for a report, and the report is in your packet on the number of reservations for, basically, I think it was the first day. It was like 460 something. I don't have it right in front of me. And the April one was in the 800s. So,
Yeah, 815.
right. So now we're going to be doing some efforts to let people know that we opened reservations early. I don't think that we communicated that to people that typically camp. So that's in the works. And that's it for unfinished. So new business, we have principles of governance resolution. And Wendy, would you like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss the Whitewater Township memorandum, the adoption of an MTA principle of governance.
I'll second that.
And the motion is to discuss. So you get to go first.
So we received in the mail from Michigan Township Association a certificate that just basically says that we as a board would insist on high standards of ethics and actively pursue education, treat all persons with dignity, practice openness and transparency, cooperate in reasonable ways, communicate to the public township issues, challenges, successes, strive for compliance, refuse to participate in activities that for personal gain, and further the understanding and obligations and responsibilities of American citizenship, democratic government, and freedom. And basically, it's just a way of displaying that we're working as a team and that we're holding ourselves to these standards. When I called MTA earlier today, Catherine, their legal counsel, actually answered the phone, and she told me that in no way are they trying to push this on people. They just thought it was a nice way to actually house this or frame it in your township hall kind of thing and show the public that we're working as a team. She said, obviously you don't need to do this. We could also opt for one that doesn't have our names on it that would be blank, and anybody who didn't want to sign it didn't have to kind of thing. So there was no pressure in that. So it wasn't anything to keep membership with the MTA, anything like that. She said it's just a thing to put up and be on record.
Anybody else want to discuss it?
So that just came in the mail as a normal part of the
Correct, yeah.
correspondence that wasn't driven by anything. It's just
Nope, just came
what township should do.
from, yep.
Well, I have some comments on it. I feel like this is a duplication of what we already did. Our ethics policy, approved that, and we're all supposed to sign it every year. To me, when I read through it, it almost seems like we're just duplicating the same thing. And I don't know. I don't know that the public's going to come and want to see this hanging on the wall. And in a way, when I was reading, I'm like, I think we're all this person or these people. And I think if you have to keep telling the public that you're a good person and you're transparent and honest, then maybe you kind of aren't. I don't know. I mean, I think you just, they're going to judge you by your character and how you act and interact and the decisions that you make. And so this team, to me, it just seems like a duplication. And I think, there's just so many far more things to work on than these kind of things. And we don't have to approve and adopt. I mean, I appreciate MTA and all the people that work there and their experience, but we don't have to adopt every single recommendation that they have. So that's why I'm not opposed to it, because I don't agree with everything it says. I'm just opposed to it because I just don't think it's necessary. So that's just my opinion. And we're just discussing. The motion wasn't to approve it. So
I guess that was my point, my question as well, the relationship between this and what was adopted, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, whatever that was. I didn't get a chance to put the two together, but I
would think if this was the policy that they wanted us to adopt or recommend that we adopt, I wouldn't be opposed to this if we replace the one that we already have. If we just want to use this one going forward as a annual thing or just a term thing, whatever, it doesn't make sense to have two, in my opinion, but this one would be maybe a better option?
She wasn't saying that this would take the place of anything else. It was just basically a thing for the public, to frame and put out that says we would adopt this. She said she kind of called it the golden rule of townships, and if, in her opinion, if you didn't sign it, you might not be a good person. So that's how she put it.
Oh, well, my second turn to speak, and I'm just saying that's ridiculous. I would have to hear that on a recording, but I can't believe they would say something like that. But anyway, so we did, actually it was kind of, because we didn't have an actual action thing, we were just made a motion to discuss, but we still have a motion and a second, so we have to vote. So I'll,
Yes, you've already
before we have a
discussed it,
discussion,
but I do need to vote.
We should have.
So all in favor of
Discussing
the
it?
discussion that we had.
Aye.
Higher discussion.
Opposed? The motion carried. Okay, we're past that one. Now we have draft resolution. Oh, that's part of that, actually, isn't it? Consideration, Parks and Rec Advisory Committee status update. All right, let me get that. Okay, this one was mine, and I'm making a recommendation that, I'm going to start with the motion, that the board places PRAC, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, on inactive status until further notice pending board review and clarification of PRAC's role and structure.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded, and so I'll introduce it. It's just become real evident to me and obvious that there is a disconnect between the board and this particular committee. Whether it's just lack of, not only this board, I've seen it with a prior board there, and even the chair of the PRAC spoke to it tonight, that they had some communication differences with the prior board, and it hasn't really improved with this board. I've seen it on almost everything they brought. It's been a struggle, to say the least, or it just simply failed. And I think that there's fundamentally a structure thing with the organization, what they're expected to do, what our expectations are, and we haven't really, as a board, really truly vetted this. We've all kind of recognized issues with this or that or something, but we haven't really done brainstorming on how could this work better with these. And these are citizen volunteers. Yeah, they get a small stipend to go to a meeting, but they're committing their time and their energy, and they're spending a lot of effort. And when things don't get approved, and I'm not saying that everyone shares the blame for that, I suppose, us not being on the same page as two groups. But I don't want to disrespect our volunteers. And I just think that we need, over the next few months, to really come up with ideas, come together, have a discussion as a board. What do we want from this group? Should they be working on only things that we direct them to work on? Only ideas maybe that we come up with and say, hey, we want some ideas on, what are the highest priorities at Whitewater Township Park that need to be fixed or repaired? Give us your thoughts. I don't know, there's a lot of different directions that we could go. Should they be a committee, an advisory committee, like an ROS to the Planning Commission? Should they not be so structured with bylaws and automatically have monthly meetings? Maybe they just meet as needed, like the BZA. So that's my introduction, and I'll just void the conversation to another member if they want to add anything.
I have a few things to add to that. So I guess, in my mind, I think assumptions were made about how the process works. And, I think as you said, the connection between the board and PRAC was not good. We kept hearing, I think, they're working on the 5-year rec plan and didn't get much more than that, in terms of what steps they're happening, what are they doing. And so I think then suddenly there it was, and it was not something that was easily understood in terms of where they've been, what they've done. Do we have enough? There were key questions along the way in terms of, was this going to be a simple update of the prior document, or are we going to start from scratch? And that decision was made. There was questions about the citizen participation with 100 survey results. Is that enough to garner what the township wants in terms of recreation? So I guess that's where I come down on that. I think it has to be a much more collaborative approach between the board and PRAC or whatever it's going to be in the future. I think there seems to be a mindset out there that, like I've heard it said that the PRAC can go after a grant for this. Well, it's not really PRAC going after a grant. It's the township. The township board is the one who decides, this is a grant that we want to pursue. This is the amount of match that we're willing to contribute. This is the outside expertise we're willing to bring in for design. This is the outside expertise we're willing to bring in for grant writing. There's a lot of moving parts in that, and I think, and as I said before, assumptions are made, and they're not always accurate, I think, on both sides. So anyway, I'm not ready to offer anything specific about thoughts on PRAC, or how it functions in the future, but I don't think we want to let it sit. We want to definitely get to this and give some clear expectations, and maybe another joint meeting or something is in order to see how we can work together better.
Anyone else?
I agree. I think PRAC's biggest frustration has just been the lack of communication with the board and the clear direction. And this is a group of people that are so hardworking and dedicated with servant hearts to this community, and they want to roll up their sleeves and get work done, but they don't want to waste their time either, and they've just put a lot of time and effort over the last year doing different things that, when it comes back to the board, it hasn't been approved, and it's very deflating to them. So I think whatever we can do as a board to clearly define exactly what we want from them and expect from them, and if it's become something more like a work group with, very clear expectations and goals, I think it would be a great benefit to everybody. Nobody wants to waste their time. So I'm all for restructuring it. I just don't want this to go, get put on the back burner. I think we need to get through budgets and, the few things that we have right on our agenda right now, and revisit this maybe in April and get some sort of clear, new clear plan. And it would be nice to include some of the members of PRAC in that process too, and get their feedback on maybe how they feel, they could contribute and what they need to be able to do a great job.
Any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion for the board to place PRAC on inactive status until further notice, pending board review and clarification of PRAC's role and structure. And that motion was seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the follow-up then is to for all of us to keep it on our radar for when it would be the appropriate time to discuss it, and maybe what kind of a structure that discussion has.
So should this be under the any park and recreation items? That is a standard piece in our agenda. And I guess I agree with you. I don't want to see this.
Yeah, it's not really a tabled item. The motion was approved, so it is suspended.
Okay. I just hope that we don't, I don't want to.
And that's just something that's what I was saying. Our to-do is to not let it be forgotten, and I don't think that'll happen. So it's on our to-do list. So the next item is consideration approving a firefighter/park manager full-time job description. Has my name / Chief Morgan, but we need a motion and a second before we can have the chief discuss it. So I'll make a motion that the board approves the full-time firefighter/park manager position as presented.
I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And I get to speak first, so I'm going to turn it over to Josh to introduce this concept to the board and the public.
Yeah, so as you can see in your packet, I kind of put together everything. The reason my name is on this packet is just because this has been a long conversation between Supervisor Slopsama, myself and trustee ours of just management of the park, but also the operational needs of the fire department as we continue to grow and the community continues to grow. So I kind of spent a good amount of time workshopping it and figuring out how to build a position that would work best for the township, essentially. This position would primarily be during the summer. That May through October window would be primarily park. That's where they're focused. They're working on the park. We have extra office space in our fire hall that could be used for admin purposes, because the goal is to not have this person be a lead ranger, is my understanding, and be more in that administrative side, so that what this will allow them to do is be admin, but also when fire calls go out based on priority or severity, they would then be able to be my second person during the day, assisting me with some of those calls where sometimes it is just me. But the person then would be, as you can see in the job description, would be, let me scroll down to it here, year-round support for the park, routine park facility maintenance, coordinated seasonal park preparation, seasonal staff recruitment, scheduling, submitting payroll, all of that as an admin function. Where the fire side comes in is this person would be a 40-hour week person. They could essentially fill some of the weekend staffing if needed. They could fill a weekday where I have a lot of chiefs meetings and meetings that I need to be in town, where this person could supplement the time that I'm away. It puts them in the office for that 8 hours or 4 hours, and then they could go back to the park where we'd work in conjunction together that way. The fire department would carry 60% of this due to the fact that over the winter, that's a larger window. I feel like that the park's not open, and then the park would carry less. Do you guys have any, I don't know,
I just want to
ask questions now, so it's a new format, so
I just wanted to finish up my time.
Yeah, feel free.
Is to say that it's this executive summary talks about the wage and benefits. That has not been decided. That's a budget process for the board.
Yeah.
That's just what his anticipated.
So we're not really approving all of this
You're
today.
not approving wages or benefits. You're only approving the job description that lists the duties of the position.
Yeah, I just needed something to budget for the fiscal year this year.
You're not approving the budget impact. You're approving page 15.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, it's whoever wants to next.
So what is the plan? I forgive me if I know we talked about this before, but I don't remember what you told me if we did discuss this. What is the plan for the time in the summertime where he can't be your right-hand man? Who is going to be your right-hand person in the summer?
Nothing changes there. Operations stay the same. That at the end of the day, it's no different than last summer was. Just the issue was the person that was in this position would have to clock out from what they were doing, say when they shut the lawnmower off, and then they would go onto my payroll. And then when they were done with the incident, clock back into that position. So there's a lot of administrative load that needed to be followed there. And not saying that double dipping could happen in that, but we pay as a fire department on the hour, right? So if you're only gone for 30 minutes, you're getting an hour, and then you're going back onto the other. So this kind of cleans some of that up. But the expectation is if they cannot respond, nothing changes, because it's still me responding during the daytime and my, core group of others that sometimes if they're around coming from home. So
I would like to back up and correct what I said. It's more than just one page as a job description. Then you get a little bit more into executive summary with a budget analysis, and then you start listing core duties, and it makes it look like compensation and benefits are part of the job description, which should not be in there.
I should remove that.
Right. Yeah, this should just be a generic, this is the job, the objective, the job, here's the duties. So I don't have any problem approving it if it's amended to take those.
Yeah, I can amend that.
guess my only question is, it seems to be written around one individual, this work here, and and I understand why, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it in any way. It seems like a good opportunity, but I'm wondering beyond that, is there, do you see this as something that's ongoing, that's independent, or could there be another scenario where somebody else would fill this position in this way?
I think so. We are not unique in creating a position like this, actually, because I brought it up as a discussion point in our Grand Traverse Area Fire Chiefs Association meeting yesterday. And this is how Peninsula, they used to have a facilities maintenance. That was their job. They were a firefighter and doing facility maintenance. And so when a fire call or a medical call would go out, they would stop. They'd shut the water off to the toilet that they were working on, get in their truck, and respond to the medical call. I'm not saying this is how a fire department goes full-time, because that is not my intent. But this is how departments like Peninsula Fire or even Blair Fire have supplemented the growth from a paid-on-call volunteer department into now what is the expectation of the residents, and also just how busy we are getting. So it's just that it's a good hybrid model that supports multiple departments across the township. So,
But potentially multiple individuals.
Could easily be multiple individuals, because we could in the future look at a facilities maintenance person that does the same thing. So, and it does give value back to my team members that we may have on our department, that we could then, you've given us 10 years, you're good at maintenance. Maybe this is an opportunity to reward people internally too.
Okay. Any other comments? I have one more, and that is, if we approve this, I think it would be appropriate to work with the clerk to get this into a proper job description format consistent with our other job descriptions, including the elements that you've mentioned, but it's just not in the proper format.
Yep.
Would you agree, Wendy?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I'd also like to see that, is there any legal response about this yet?
I have not sent this to legal. I've not been directed to send this to legal. So I would need Supervisor Slopson's approval to send this to legal.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
Tim, before you move on, could you direct me to where you read that particular verbiage for your motion?
Well, I pieced it together because...
Okay, so I can't find it.
Well, it's the very first page at the bottom, where the chief said recommended.
What's at the top of the page? 'Cause I have three.
Let's see. It's in the packet. It's page 13, and it's his recommendation. I just, instead of saying approved of the attached proposal as recommended, I included the actual job description in my motion. You want me to restate the motion?
No, I just need to find, I have four items from the chief. Just let me know what's the very top.
Do you see the one that has the picture of the fire logo in the Whitewater Township Park? Next page. And at the bottom of that page, see recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I used that, and then I included the actual job description at the top of that page.
Recommendation, approval of the attached proposal.
Nope, instead of attached proposal, I included the job description. That's at the top of that page.
I'm going to listen back real quick.
We'll fix it later.
Yeah, okay. I just thought it'd be like one of those simple sample motions. Thank you very much, and I have the vote. I appreciate it. Thanks.
It's on the tape recorder. Okay, on to the next item. Don't go too far, Chief. Let's see, do we have a name by that one? I just have Chief Morgan, but he can't make a motion, so does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider the hiring of the new firefighters. It's making that ticking noise again. I will second that motion.
We did. Deb and I did. We thought.
We think it's just ice in there.
Break it off.
Okay, sorry, he's go fix it.
Can you repeat the motion? I couldn't catch that among everything going on.
She didn't get to complete it, so go ahead, Wendy, do it again.
I make a motion to approve the consideration of hiring of the new firefighters that Chief Morgan has presented.
Thank you.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And would you like to speak to it, or would you like the chief to do that for you?
Chief can.
Okay.
All right, I guess. No. So I want to start off by saying I did not seek any of these individuals out. All of these individuals sought us out for employment opportunities. I have 5 that are on my list. I would like to just kind of provide a little background knowledge too. When I started at Whitewater Fire as a firefighter, we had 9 people on our roster. If we were to approve these 5 members, we will be up to 21, which is an impressive growth for the department. And it speaks to the testament of our training and the commitment that we have to our team. I'm incredibly proud of this, and it is everything that I wanted to see happen. So I just want to give a brief summary of each individual. Jacob Chappelle is currently in Fire Academy, which I'm one of the lead instructors of this year. He is actually a practicing attorney with focus in township law. So maybe there could be a good asset there as well. But he is extremely dedicated. Okay, every single one of these people on this list, minus the Andrew Dangle at the end, he's more recent. The top 4 have been coming to our trainings unpaid as an observation, just to get to know the team. And I use this as an opportunity to see how they meld with the rest of the crew. And Jacob fit in perfectly. We didn't have to do anything. He brings great potential. I watch him every Tuesday or Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday in Academy, and he is his team leader, and he is a great leader. Emery Kiley went through fire school last year, which I assisted with. She's a firefighter, EMT, soon to be EMT with Peninsula Fire. She is interested in, once she gets her EMT, to be part of our weekend response or on-call program, or weekend coverage program. So she would be a good asset there, because that list right now is only about 7 people out of the current 16 that I have that can actually pick up weekend shifts. So she would be a great asset to that program. And she also helps run a gym. So my intent is to kind of put her in charge of fitness for my crew. Tyler Francisco, I've actually known Tyler since he was a little kid. He is a firefighter 1 and 2, EMTB. His father is a lieutenant, used to be a lieutenant, now a firefighter for Grand Traverse Metro. Tyler actually is a firefighter for the Grand Traverse Band in Bishopi Town. And so Tyler and Chief Fairchild from the tribe and I have all spoken, and we see this as an operational benefit to get us into the casino more frequently, with Tyler representing Whitewater and the tribe by doing CPR training, stop the bleed trainings. It's a collaboration. So Tyler would fill a role on the weekend program as well. Will Weiss went through fire school in 2007, and then he moved to Florida quickly after that. Will actually resides in the Island Lake subdivision, but he's one of the 3 houses that are in Union Township, not Whitewater Township. So he's on that backside of it. He is a geologist by trade, and he is interested in getting back into fire, wants to contribute back to the community. And then Andrew Dangle lives in Holiday Hills. He does not have the ability to join a department in this capacity because Grand Traverse Metro now does not take volunteers or paid on-call firefighters. He is looking to get out of his career as a chef and into a more rewarding career of giving back to his community. So he has no fire experience, he has no medical experience. So he would be, out of the list, the only one that would need, he's a year out from having any certifications. So he would be our true only probationary firefighter with no certification. So he's extremely moldable. But these are 5 people who I think would really help round out our roster and get us to that safe, healthy number that I think could help us as we move into the future. So.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? I have one. I think we received in the past their actual job. These employees fill out a job application.
They do, and I usually turn those into.
Right, I thought they used to be in the packet, and we would have kind of a lot of the history that you have verbally, but you must be able to read. I think.
No, I've never done. I don't, because it has a lot of personal information on it, so I try not.
Redacted it and done it that way. Okay, all right, that was all.
But if that's something the board wants in the future, we could come up with something.
Fine.
I have a question if you're done.
Yep.
So you had mentioned in your description about 21 being a good number for our size community. Is that based on some ratio that you have, or from? Where does that?
21's a healthy number. My goal for our fire department is 30. That is my goal.
Is that your personal goal, or
it's
is
just
that...
my personal goal from the standpoint of we have then ability of summer, because when summer hits, people are on trips and everybody seems to go on vacation at the exact same time. It's just how it works. So having 30 gives us that real flexibility of people being gone, coming and going. But 21 is a healthy number, and it's in a paid on call department, it's probably one of the highest in the county.
Okay.
So
I guess I do. That's what I was kind of hoping for, is some benchmark or ratio that. Does the more firefighters we have influence our insurance rating in any way? Is there
our
anything?
training hours do.
Okay.
And so the more firefighters we have, the more training hours we have, the more training we do, the better that influences our numbers.
So you're reporting that to the insurance companies on it in
So
some way?
my yearly ISO review, I'll report that. And our weekend staffing actually is going to help our ISO rating significantly this year. It's going to give us a lot more points.
Does anybody else? I have another question, but does anybody else have a question for it? My question is, just out of curiosity, everybody, you gotta have a uniform that'll fit you. I mean, there's onboarding costs to these people.
There are.
Some of them have no training. We're going to pay for that. Some come in with training. We got to outfit them. They can't bring what they're using in another fire department, bring it with them probably. But so what is the onboarding cost of one firefighter?
These firefighters, let's just say we don't have any. I'm just going to go off on the limb and say we have no gear for these employees.
Well,
but I may. But I'm just saying, let's say we don't. An average set of turnout gear is, I just actually got a quote last week because of the tribal grant. Our new spec is about $4,250, so $4,250 for a set of turnout gear. That's helmet, jacket, pants, boots, gloves, Nomex hood. Our uniforms, so this and the pants and the t-shirt, were probably about $300 is what I spent per employee to outfit everybody with a uniform look. So when they're working or we're on trainings, so we're probably $5,000 per employee to outfit an employee with gear. Radios are provided by the county. Fire Academy is, if they don't have Fire 1 and Fire 2, I send them through Michigan Works. If they don't get Michigan Works funding, then we would pay for it. That runs about $1,250. EMT class costs about $1,000 to $1,500. That number fluctuates based on Michigan Works funding as well. So that's just for somebody that has no certification whatsoever. But yeah. So there definitely is costs. But
it's a lot of cost.
It is.
They got to go through medical and all that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Last call for discussion.
Well, I'm assuming that the budget is already supporting this, or is this all new, but things that we have to consider for the budget?
That's your question to him, because he put his budget together.
You're going to be, well, yeah.
No, my budget took into account, when I do my budget, I account for 30 people, and I account for every single one of those people coming to every single training for 2 hours. So I make sure that when I do this, that yeah, my budget can support this. And my budget and my training turnout is about 75%. So but I'm anticipating 100%. So I have room to absorb. Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you.
And next item is report to the Township Board on private road ordinance. And there may be a motion on this, or there may not. But I would like to at least now make a motion to have the board discuss the private road ordinance as presented from the Planning Commission. Do you got that part, Kay? Okay. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I'll be able to repeat the same thing. Is there a second to discuss it?
I'll second that.
Okay, and I defer to Randy.
So there's a memo in your packet, and so I won't repeat everything that's in there, but I'll just hit a couple of high points here. The town board several months ago asked the Planning Commission to work on a private road ordinance. As you may know, we had one back in, I think, 2003 or thereabouts, but it was repealed along about 2019. And then there were new drafts that were worked on by the Planning Commission, and there's others here who could describe the history of this, but it basically, here we are in 2026 without a private road ordinance. So, as I said, the Planning Commission, or the town board, had asked the Planning Commission to look into this. They did, and have a new draft that's been proposed. It is the mindset that the Planning Commission took on this was to have a private road ordinance that's very basic and very streamlined and very succinct, as opposed to something that is more elaborate and more involved and detailed. It basically addresses what I think are the two major reasons to have a private road ordinance, and that is to have basic standards that govern how you're going to build a private road in the township in terms of geometry, the horizontal and vertical geometry, the materials, all of that is basic engineering standards that are referenced. And then also that we address in some way the risks of a private developer not completing the road as promised. I'm kind of sensitive to that because I lived through a circumstance when that happened in actually outside Columbus, Ohio, where I was the planning director, and a developer did half a subdivision in Skiptown and didn't finish it, and it was a mess. But in any event, what you have in front of you is the draft that the Planning Commission worked on. It is, as I said, a very basic ordinance. I think this was on the agenda for at least 3 months. Gordy Frazier was hired to help us with that. They took the prior drafts that were worked on, as well as took some of their experience from other townships in the area, and started working on the draft. It was presented to the Planning Commission. There were questions and edits, went back and forth, and now we're at the point of bringing it back to the town board as you requested. I believe next step would be to send this for legal review. It has not been reviewed by an attorney yet in terms of form and legality. We should be looking particularly at some of the penalties and how that's enforced if there is an issue with enforcement. So I believe it's been practice of the township to have a public hearing on general ordinances, so that could be scheduled at a time when we're perhaps more confident in the legal aspects of this. But so I think if there is a motion, it would be to send the draft ordinance to the attorney for review.
So, Kay, did we vote on the motion to discuss that we already discussed? I know, I did it again. Sorry. All in favor of discussing it, say aye.
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 Opposed? No. Yeah, I know.
We're getting better.
Right. That's good. Usually we have an action item instead of just discussing. So, but I read through it. I do have my neighbor reviewing it to give his input. He worked his entire career at the state of Michigan road commission or whatever you call them. And he has been, in the last 4 years, he's been maintaining Elk Lake Trail on the private portions of that for all of us. So he has knowledge of, and he was a longtime member of the Planning Commission here. So he was very happy to be asked to look at it. So I'm waiting to hear from him. But I see definitely the need for this. I mean, we've seen quite a few private roads like just recently in the last year, not quite a few, but I mean a few. And it talks about naming and all this and that and many things, but I think we definitely need this. I did see the part where it doesn't apply to existing private roads. That could be problematic just because of how close some of the houses are or whatever. I mean, it's kind of hard to make it comply to this if it's already there. But it applies to the entire road, I understand it, if it's extended to the point of adding more than 2 houses, I think.
Well, there's a cutoff between a shared driveway and a private road, and so
Right.
that's where that is.
Okay. So I thought it was all good, and I was surprised a little bit. I read I read a little bit of the law that even though I'm on a private road, and we do have issues with some of our members not paying their road dues, we call them, and there's little. We're not an association, so there's little you can do about it. But I did read in the law that you can actually, even at existing private roads without an association, you can petition the township to handle invoicing dues for the road maintenance. I didn't know that, or how that would work. But I did see that you do have that provision in here for new private roads, as far as payments and what the action might be if people fail to pay. But this is my first time to talk about it. I think we're at the point, I'm comfortable with this, that I know we need legal review, and I'm curious to see what comes out of that. I would be interested in sending this back to the Planning Commission to do that part of it, and have the Planning Commission to review the attorney recommendations or edits to be presented and to the board in that more complete manner. And I know that it's a general ordinance and we're not required to hold a public hearing, but for something like this, it just seems to me that we would. It probably would be a good idea, but I think that it would be good for the Planning Commission to conduct the public hearing. The board can do another one if it wants, but that would be my request, that this be directed back to the Planning Commission for legal review and to hold a public hearing, and then present a final draft to this board for action. Unless they don't want it back, I don't know, but that's just a thought that I had. So who wants to go next?
Would it make more sense to do the public hearing before the legal review? Just because it seems like the legal review is almost a final step. Would you want more input from the public before you do that or after?
Well, I'd like to know that are there any major legal issues in this? I don't think there are, but I think it'd be better if there was legal review of it first. And I wouldn't support going back to the Planning Commission with this, and that it's a general ordinance. The Township Board asked the Planning Commission to develop this. They did that. They're giving it to you. This is our best understanding of what we need in the township. Now, I would agree that this could be developed more. There's amendments. There's things to add. I worry that it gets more complicated every time you do that and add material to it. But I think basically my preference would want to see this go to legal review, and then the town board hold a public hearing, and then take whatever edits you get from the public and adopt it. I also worry about, again, I think from that, don't quote me, but I think Deb said there were 5 private roads built last year in the township. I don't know if that's an actual number.
We had no say on.
Well, that just get there, and there's no standard for how they're built. There's no, I mean, it can be a 2-track, it can be whatever. So anyway,
Those primarily used as driveways. I mean, just driveways into long, narrow properties where there might be family compounds.
There's no standard for how a private road gets built.
Right, but I'm asking out of the
So,
five
so
that
this
were.
is your second time to talk, so ask all
Sorry,
your
okay,
questions and then yours. That's how we have to do it, so.
I do debate here.
So, yeah, I'm asking, do you know anything about the five that were just, that were done this past year? Like, I'm just curious where they are. I don't know of any.
They're on the map.
Okay, Randy, any follow-up on that, or?
No, I just think they're problematic, and I don't know, but like I said, I think the longer we go without a private road ordinance, the worse things are.
Okay, well, I'll have a second thing to say. Wendy, do you want that first thing to say yet?
I do. I have read this over and asked all my questions to Randy already. I do agree that we do need a private road ordinance. I think the people need to have a say in it, though. I do agree that the township board also needs to have a say in what's being done in the township and the naming of the roads. I think that there was a provision previously that, you know, certain names should be used. Then right now they can use whatever they want. But I do agree that it needs to go to legal, and I think then the public hearing would have to be with the township board because it's a general ordinance. So.
Yes, my second thing on that is, that's fine. I think in the past, though, we've had, well, I guess maybe it was required that the planning commission have a public hearing, and there was an option for the board to have a second one.
Yeah, that's under zoning.
Okay, all right.
Which is different than.
That's where I was kind of coming up with that a little bit. No, I'm fine if we, you know, if the planning commission feels it's done its job and it's kind of done with it, then it's on us. And I guess I would just like to see it. I don't think it really requires a motion at this point, but we've received it, and I think the next step would be for the supervisor to submit it to legal for review. And then after what we see happens there, then we can schedule it for a public hearing. Okay. So we will move on. Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Planning Commission. That was, I know, a big thing on your plate this year. Okay, the next item is consideration of change to regular meeting schedule in adopting resolution number 2026-02. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, it seems like we're past that number. Setting regular meeting dates for fiscal year 2026-27. And would Wendy like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss resolution 2026-02 in consideration of setting the regular meeting dates for the next coming fiscal year.
Okay, I'll second the motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries to discuss meeting dates. Wendy?
So these are our normal meeting dates that we had posted in previous years, the second Thursday of the month, and not including the fourth Thursday. Just because I just wanted the flexibility of not having two meetings a month, but also adding another meeting if we needed to. So kind of like a work group or a work session, just because I don't think anyone is fully aware of the double duty of the clerk having this many meetings a month. I just wanted to be able to express that. I also, since writing this memo, have researched when we have to display this, and this has to be displayed by April 9th, that first meeting date. So we do have some time still to discuss this. That's why I was like, we can just discuss it. Other than that, I mean, other than posting it, I don't really have anything else to say about that.
And I, you know, this will be on an agenda, obviously, in March. And I don't have anything to add to the conversation right now. I wait until we'll have a full board. And anybody else have any comment on it at this point, or do you want to wait, or what?
I guess I was under the impression it was helpful to have two meetings a month, and that if we had, but I guess if it's additional work and a cost, obviously, too, for the township to have that, maybe it's not as helpful as we thought. I don't know. I guess I'm interested in looking at this again later and seeing if that.
Well, we're going to have to. So
yeah. I guess I'm a little bit surprised that I think that was a way of trying to get shorter meetings, and maybe not. It's going on 8:30.
Yeah. Well, it's only 2 hours. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Anything from Jill?
No, I'm not opposed to going back down to one meeting. We can always do special meetings if we need an extra meeting in a month. And so that, it would just be a play it by ear instead of having something set in stone twice a month. I would recommend that we maybe do it the third Thursday if we make it down to one meeting a month, to just push it back a little later. That gives Wendy and I time to finalize, just our reconciliations and get all our reports ready. And it's a little hard to do it the second Thursday of the month. So just if we pushed it back a week, it would be helpful.
That would be helpful, because that's the other part of my dilemma is I have the ZBA meeting the same fourth Thursday. So if we have a meeting in the morning, I still have one at night as well. So that's the other reason.
That might also be helpful for the planning commission too, so that, because in the past, the planning commission and the town board meetings, were like the following week. So it was hard to sometimes get things together from one entity to another. So if there were another week in there, that would help.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to go back to 6-hour meetings, though. That's not very productive.
Okay. So there is no action on the item. There are no tabled items. Is there any other board comments or discussion? Okay.
I actually am.
Okay.
So in the past, I know that the board has been very, very involved in hiring people and hiring every single person of the Rangers and every single person in the fire department. And I feel like the department heads themselves should be able to pick who they want and hire them. And then there's obviously background checks, there's, medical, there's things like that. I just don't think that the board needs to be that involved in picking out each person that, is, and telling the fire chief that he can hire a person. So that's just my comment. I think in the future, he should be able to hire people that he thinks would fit on his team, and that would pass a background test and would pass a physical. I don't think that the board needs to be that involved in every little decision.
Well,
I think that's partly why we have these long.
I think you're pointing that at me because he mentioned my name.
No, I'm
Okay, but I would certainly think that a department head should be able to talk to the supervisor about hiring people.
Right.
I don't see any other board members getting in the way of any rangers or anything like that.
No, I'm saying it's kind of a waste of our time in this meeting. That's what I'm saying. Like, he should be able to, just say, hey, I'm going to hire.
We have to approve the hiring.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's correct.
Oh, you do have to approve hiring people.
I kind of like to know what's going on. How would we ever know who's...
can't just go on
I don't know.
Heather or
It's just kind
whoever.
of nice to hear a little summary. I like it when the people come up and, introduce themselves and give us a little tidbit. It's just nice to put a name to a, a face to a
Well,
name.
we'll just,
just-
let's just leave it at, that's her board comment, but we'll just move on. And we have announcements. The next township board meeting is February 26th at 9 a.m. And then any specific board member announcements of meetings, this or that? No? Okay, and we are to second public comment. Who would like to make a public comment?
Early run. How do you go home to her clock?
Heidi Valmies, 8388 Winnie Lane, Williamsburg, Michigan, private citizen. We're almost there, people. 11 years we've been talking about private roads. 11 years. Do you know we have almost either 5 or 6 new roads? One of them's called Starflower. One of them's called Monarch Lane. Drive around your community and get to know where they are. I suggest you do that. As a trustee, I drove around a lot. I know every inch of this community after 6 years. How do you pay attention or vote on something if you don't know where it is or you haven't looked at it? Remember, you work for us. We don't work for you. The other thing that was noticeable is we need to fight for rule, and we need to fight soon and hard, because for some reason, Lansing thinks we're sub-rural. Grand Traverse County and Leelanau County are sub-rural. We're missing out on tons of funding, but somebody has to go fight or find Mr. Roth and ask him when's the last time he came to Whitewater Township. Because we're pretty rural. We don't have much to offer you. But we're not rural, according to Lansing. Watch Monday, 6 o'clock news about it. And pay attention of who makes the decision on why we're rural. If we don't save our rural community soon, it's going to be gone. Monday was an eye-opener. But I consider us rural. And for the love of God, somebody call tonight and get this fixed, because we already spent X number of dollars. This is unacceptable. Okay? Somebody needs to call now. It's only 8:30, 9 o'clock, so you gotta have a call. Whoop-de-doo, emergency services. But if we don't fix this, Josh didn't go out there and take his gap tool and clean the... You don't know how to clean that piece of equipment out there. You clean your roof, you have to have certain little wheelies on it so you don't hurt any of the roof. This is an expensive piece of equipment. Do we even have a warranty? Because we've had issues with this before.
That's not like that.
Any other public comment?
My favorite can't just snack those nice talking out with milk. Yeah, I'll take some.
Mike Jacobson, Muskegee Point Road. I like the one meeting a month idea, getting rid of the morning meeting during business hours. It makes that meeting is impossible for me and a lot of other people in the township to attend. And I know I don't attend every meeting, but I attend all the ones that I can. And I like to. I mean, not really. I don't like being here, but I like being informed. I like knowing what's going on, and that helps promote transparency. When any and all of the public can show up at every meeting, that helps promote transparency. And earlier on, when you guys were talking about some budget stuff early in the meeting, Wendy, you made a comment, something about you just need to trust me. I forget the exact words, but I don't mean anything derogatory against you. If anybody in this room, anybody of authority in this room made that comment, I would say the same thing or very similar to it. That's a huge red flag for me, and it does not speak towards transparency. I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but this whole country is asking for transparency out of their government. And we don't just mean the federal government. We want it right down to the local government. And from the way I understood and interpreted what was going on, what these other people were talking about was a way to help make it more transparent. I'm all for that. Thank you for your time and your effort.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment?
Bye.
Melissa Melton, 5044 Benton Road. Obviously, I'm extremely disappointed that the board made the choice that they made tonight. I understand the logic of wanting to have the board and the PrAC be on the same page. We've been asking for that for a long time. I think we have worked extremely hard to get a 5-year rec plan, 99% there. And I think it's really showing us that the board really doesn't want that committed. They don't want that finalized. So we will obviously not have a 5-year rec plan for till whenever you guys decide to finish it. I will tell you that in my, I don't even know how many years I've been on this committee, having 5-year rec plans has brought this township over $200,000. Not just, obviously not state money, but through ARPA, through other local funding. We've referenced and gone through that process for a reason. So I think, Randy, I wanted to address a comment that you had made about that we'd only have 100 survey people come back. I would note that the last 3 surveys that have been done, there was one that was actually done by a subcommittee for the ARPA specifically, not even a PrAC thing. It was all through ARPA funding where the community wanted money to be spent. A huge portion of that, it was over 50%, was towards Parks and Rec. People want to see their natural areas preserved. They want to see walking trails. They want to see a commitment by this board that they're going to pursue and do things the right way. Keeping up with maintenance is one of them. I'm fully on board with that, Tim. I'm not disagreeing. That's why we try to get the Lossy Road Trail project moving forward, because that is a disgrace. I would dare any of you guys to go on Lossy Road Trail and try to take a walk from Cookside Road in the spring before the trees come out. It's a disgrace. It's a mud pit. You can't even walk through there, okay? But going back to the survey, 100 is not obviously what we were wanting to get, but it really gives a tune to what the community wants. And the last 3 has also given us a really good vantage point of what the community wants. Just because board members don't want a walking trail doesn't mean the community doesn't. Just because the board maybe has no clue that we have all these beautiful natural areas because they've never been to them doesn't mean the community doesn't want it. So you guys need to keep that in mind when you guys are looking at projects moving forward. If you guys choose not to have a Parks and Rec committee, obviously that's a choice that the board can make. You are losing a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge of a lot of good people that I think are unfortunately going to be extremely disappointed in this decision tonight, and it's going to be impactful going forward. So anyway, I just wanted to speak my piece on that. Thank you.
Thank you. You're not.
Kim Angus. I won't try to claim that I'm up to date on all the issues that you're having with PrAC. There have been historic issues for as long as we've had a PrAC board. But I would like to encourage you to step forward and pull things together, have a new plan, put together whatever you need in terms of visioning to know where you're going, because if it isn't done very promptly, we're going to lose a lot of the assets that we have in place. It's taken a long time to get to where we're at. I hate to see that fall apart structurally moving forward. So I wanted to encourage you, get a new plan together quickly so we're not going backwards. Aside from that, the private road ordinance, I understand you're moving forward with it. I'm not against the private road ordinance. I was actively involved in every committee to do the last 3 versions that the board was unable to ever select one. What I would like to see is we have a proposal in front of us, but that proposal says that all new roads are going to meet those standards over there. And my question is, do we have a copy of those standards over there? I know the engineers do. But is there a copy here in Whitewater Township Hall? Because we're creating an ordinance that says you're going to follow that ordinance over there, that rule of that guidebook, that manual. So when the public is saying, yes, we're supporting the private road ordinance, we don't have any foggy idea unless there's a manual on the counter that we can look and have some idea of what standards we're agreeing to. So I'd like to encourage the board, if we have a copy, let's get it out here on the table. If we don't have a copy, let's get a copy. It's not that hard to do. Additionally, with the private road ordinance, I have 2 issues. I'm glad that it's leaving existing roads alone. That is appropriate. However, it would be good to have, you'll rarely hear me say this, a little bit more in the existing private road section. Specifically, some simple statements that private roads, you can't block access, and that every private road owner has a right to fix or improve, not bill your neighbors, but fix and improve your road to maintain appropriate vehicular access for emergency personnel and utilities would be a very appropriate addition to that particular section. That is a problem that we have with some of the private roads where one owner decides that, potholes can't be filled. That's not appropriate. Anyone on a private road should have the right at their own expense to fix that road to maintain a safe access to their own personal property. You also should not be allowed to pile up a berm, block access, park your car sideway across the road. Those type of things are very, very basic safety access things that could be in that existing private road access section. Additionally, it goes back to my previous point. I'd like to see what standards we're agreeing to. This is a rural township. I'm hoping, I haven't seen the standards, I'm hoping that there's some allowance for dirt and gravel roads. We are, as Heidi mentioned, we are a rural township. A rural township does not need all paved roads. I understand if there's 30 houses, maybe it needs to be paved. And I'm hoping those standards are in there, but not having had access to see them, I'm hoping that this board will find some way to make those standards that you are considering accessible for the public to also review. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? You waited this long, you might as well, right?
This is just reoccurring to me right now. Vicki Emerson, resident, Whitewater Township. As far as the park goes, since I've worked there, have not felt that there has been collaboration between the township board, the PRAC, and the park as far as what the needs are. I feel PRAC is selectively relating to High Prairie and other trails. We have beautiful trails for Whitewater Township, but I'm not saying that the township doesn't assess what our needs are at the park, but we have some really big needs. And I just want to make sure whatever happens with the PRAC, that the township park is included in those needs, if that makes sense as to what I'm trying to say. An example of that would be the playground structure. Nobody from PRAC came to park staff to say, what is your clientele like? What age kids are using the playground? And in my opinion, I feel that playground structure would be very expensive in relation to how it would be used. It'd be a huge investment that is basically like a statue. We need to look at the foundation. We don't have a good foundation for the park's playground surface. That was talked about last year or maybe the year before. Those are basic needs. Our playground looks awful. It's weeds and, what do we do about it? Thank you for your time. But I just want to make sure the park is represented.
Okay. Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah, I forgot something. Heidi Malmuth, 8388 Winnie Lane, private citizen. Here we go. We're sending the ordinance to the lawyer. This is the only place, I got to say, in the state of Michigan. It's different in Illinois. We put attorneys at the table in every single meeting. And we put don't say no, Kim, my time. I can hear you, and I know how much you hate this. I'm going to tell you, if you put an attorney at the table, guess what happens? He stops you from making mistakes when you forget about Robert's Rules of Order. You know what else he does? He stops you from second-guessing yourself and possibly making a mistake. You don't know it, but he does because he pays attention at the table. You know what else the attorney finds out? He finds out everything that happened in the meeting so that when he gets a phone call from one of you, He has notes because he takes notes. You're not calling one attorney and the other attorney is making a decision and giving you a reason and the decision, and then you find out that the attorney hasn't read you find out as a trustee, and I'm giving you an example that's a factual situation, you find out that the attorney hasn't read the ordinance in 8 months, and he made a faux pas, and you caught him, but he still doesn't know he made a mistake. If the attorney's at the table, it helps all of you first because none of you are attorneys. But it helps all of us out here understand that you're covered because we're covered. If that makes sense, somebody needs to look into it come budget time, because you can't tell me that all our legal expenses aren't doubled because you send it here, you send it there, you send it here, you send it there. Oh, we got to come back. Oh, we dotted an I. When if the dude was at the table, if the guy was at the table, guess what? He would already know what to do. I want somebody to explain to me the difference in costs come budget time for an attorney sitting here versus all the wasted costs we have. Because you hired a new attorney, he's a local attorney, and chances are he wants to understand too. I hope he's on Zoom right now. If I was your new attorney, I sure would be. I wouldn't charge it, but I'd want to know what was going on.
Did you talk twice?
Think some.
I guess I missed that. It makes it unfair for the others. So I think we've got all the public comment. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.